Hey Reddit, I need to vent. My name is Mark, I'm 27, and I just survived the holiday reunion from hell. It started as a fun family tradition. Every year, my parents insist on stuffing our entire dysfunctional extended family into my grandparents' old house for Christmas. Picture it, 15 people, one house, and way too much eggnog. But this year, a blizzard hit. We got snowed in for 3 days. And when you trap a bunch of relatives with decades of unresolved drama under one roof, secrets come out, fights break out, and by the time the roads were clear, we weren't sure if we'd ever be a family again. Here's how it all went down. The first few hours weren't bad. We were all crammed into my grandparents' old house. Too many bodies, not enough bathrooms, and a thermostat stuck at grandma cold, a crisp 62 degrees Fahrenheit. But everyone was in good spirits, sipping hot cocoa, pretending we didn't all low-key hate each other. Then the snowstorm hit. It started as a light flurry. But by the evening, the roads were buried under 3 feet of snow, and the weather app said we were officially trapped for at least the next 48 hours. The mood shifted immediately. My uncle, let's call him Uncle Mike, was the first to complain. This is ridiculous. How does the city not have plows out yet? Grandma, sipping her tea, didn't even look up. Because it's Christmas Eve, Michael. No one's working. Uncle Mike grumbled something about government incompetence, while my dad rolled his eyes. My mom, ever the peacemaker, tried to change the subject. Let's just enjoy the time together. This will be fun. Spoiler, it was not fun. By morning, tension was already brewing. My cousin Emily kept sneaking off to take phone calls, looking way too suspicious. Uncle Mike and my dad were having the same political argument they've been having for 10 years. Aunt Linda, the family gossip, was circling like a vulture, waiting for drama to strike. It struck at breakfast. Emily, who had been avoiding eye contact all morning, finally sighed, put down her fork and said, "Okay, I have something to tell you guys." Silence. Every head at the table turned. She took a deep breath. "I'm engaged." A beat of pure, stunned silence. Then all hell broke loose. My aunt, Emily's mom, gasped like Emily just announced she was dropping out of society to live in a cave. To who? Emily hesitated. Then, quietly, Tyler. I had to fight the urge to groan. Tyler. The one person the family hated. Uncle Mike slammed his coffee cup down. "Tell me you're joking." Emily squared her shoulders. "I'm not." Aunt Linda, already sniffing out the drama, leaned forward eagerly. "Oh, I need details." The tension in the room was thick. Now, let me explain. Tyler isn't a terrible person. But he's the son of my uncle's ex-business partner. A business partner who sued him 5 years ago and destroyed his career. Since then, our family and Tyler's family have been in a cold war. And now, Emily just brought the enemy into our bloodline. Uncle Mike's face was turning red. "You're really going to marry that bastard son?" Emily snapped. "I'm marrying Tyler, not his dad. Get over it." Aunt Linda was thriving. She whipped out her phone like she was about to text the entire extended family. My mom, the eternal diplomat, tried to de-escalate. "Let's all take a breath." Uncle Mike ignored her. "You think this is a joke, Emily? Do you know what his family did to me?" Emily's jaw clenched. "That has nothing to do with Tyler." Mike scoffed. "The hell it doesn't. His father ruined my life." Emily shot back, "And you ruined your own marriage, but we don't bring that up at Christmas, do we?" "Oh, shit." My other cousin actually choked on his coffee. Aunt Linda's thumbs were flying. The whole table went dead silent. Emily stood up, shaking. "I knew you guys would be like this. This is why I didn't tell you sooner." She stormed off, slamming the door behind her. And just like that, the first landmine of the weekend had been triggered. That was only day 1. And trust me, things got so much worse. After Emily stormed off, the house went dead silent. My Aunt Brenda looked like she was about to pass out. Uncle Mike was fuming. And Aunt Linda? She was texting at the speed of light. I could literally see her typing in the family group chat, probably updating every relative who wasn't trapped here with us. And then, my phone buzzed. I glanced down and, sure enough, the family group chat was exploding. Family chaos. 19 unread messages. Aunt Linda. You guys are not going to believe what just happened. Cousin Jake. Let me guess, Uncle Mike finally snapped? Aunt Linda. Worse. Emily's engaged. Cousin Sarah. Aw. That's great. Who's the lucky guy? Aunt Linda. Tyler. Cousin Jake. Wait. Tyler. Aunt Linda. Tyler fucking Harrison. Grandma. Who's Tyler? Aunt Linda. The son of the man who ruined your son's life. Grandma. Oh. Well. That's unfortunate. I put my phone away. This was getting out of control. Uncle Mike suddenly stood up, chair screeching against the floor. I need a drink. My dad, Richard, sighed. Mike, it's 9 a.m. Mike didn't even blink. And this was going to be a long weekend. I found Emily upstairs, sitting on the bed in the guest room, scrolling through her phone with the same group chat horror I just experienced. Need backup? I asked, leaning in the doorway. She let out a humorless laugh. They're losing their minds, aren't they? I sat beside her. I mean, you did just announce you're marrying the enemy. She groaned, flopping back against the pillows. Tyler is not the enemy. I hesitated. Then why didn't you tell anyone sooner? Emily froze. That's when I knew. There was more. Emily. She sat up, chewing her lip. Okay, but you have to swear you won't freak out. I raised an eyebrow. You just detonated a family bomb at breakfast. What's worse than that? She exhaled. I'm pregnant. I choked. What? She winced. Sure. My brain short-circuited. So you're not just engaged to Tyler, you're having his kid? Emily nodded, looking genuinely terrified. I stood up. You do realize if Uncle Mike finds out, he's going to actually drop dead, right? I know, she groaned. That's why I was waiting until after Christmas. Well, that plan went to shit. Emily buried her face in her hands. I'm so screwed. Before I could even respond, there was a loud knock on the door. We both jumped. Emily, Aunt Linda's voice sang from the hallway. Come downstairs. The family has some questions. Emily turned to me with pure horror in her eyes. And just like that, we were about to walk into round 2 of the Christmas war. Guys, she's pregnant. I did not see that coming. And if you think my family was mad about the engagement, wait until they hear about the baby. We barely had time to brace ourselves before Emily and I stepped into the war zone. The entire family was gathered in the living room, looking like a jury ready to deliver a guilty verdict. Uncle Mike stood with his arms crossed, jaw clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Aunt Brenda was pacing. Grandma was sitting in her recliner, just sipping tea like she was watching a live episode of Family Feud. And Aunt Linda? She was front and center, phone in hand, probably already drafting a Facebook post about the scandal. Emily took a deep breath. Okay, let's just get this over with. Uncle Mike's vein popped. So what? You thought you just dropped this bomb on Christmas morning and we'd all be fine with it? Emily squared her shoulders. I wasn't dropping a bomb. I was telling my family something important. Important? Mike scoffed. You're marrying a snake. His father. Emily cut him off. His father is not him. Tyler didn't sue you. Tyler didn't ruin your business. Mike's face reddened. That whole family is corrupt. I noticed Emily shifting nervously. She hadn't told them about the pregnancy yet. And judging by the way Mike was ready to burst a blood vessel over the engagement, she was probably seconds away from making his heart stop. Aunt Brenda sighed dramatically. We just don't want you making a mistake, honey. Emily snapped. A mistake would be listening to you guys instead of making my own decisions. That's when Aunt Linda, the human embodiment of chaos, cleared her throat. Well, since we're sharing things. Oh no. Linda smirked. How long were you planning to wait before telling us about the baby? Boom. Emily's face drained of color. Silence. Pure Stunned. Awful silence. Then Mike turned slowly to Emily. What did she just say? I took an instinctive step back. Emily clenched her fists. Linda, what the hell? Linda just shrugged, looking way too pleased with herself. What? It was gonna come out eventually. Aunt Brenda's hand flew to her mouth. You're pregnant. Emily sighed, looking completely exhausted. Yes, I'm pregnant. Grandma set down her tea. Well, she said. That is unfortunate. Mike looked like he was about to combust. You are not having that man's child. Emily's face hardened. Oh, I absolutely am. Mike's voice turned deadly low. I won't allow it. Emily let out a sharp laugh. You won't allow it? Are you hearing yourself right now? You don't get a say in this. He actually pointed at her stomach. Do you have any idea what kind of family you're tying yourself to? Emily's expression darkened. You mean the family exactly like this one? The one full of toxic, controlling people who think they know what's best for everyone. Uncle Mike snapped. I swear to God, Emily, if you go through with this. Emily cut him off, voice shaking. You'll what, Mike? Disown me? Act like I don't exist? Because if that's your plan, let me make it easy for you. Then she grabbed her coat and walked out into the blizzard. I froze. Emily, wait. But she was already outside, storming off into the snow. Aunt Brenda gasped. Someone stop her. She's pregnant. No one moved. Everyone just sat there, stewing in their own drama. So I made a decision. I grabbed my coat and went after her. I barely had time to zip up my coat before the freezing wind slapped me in the face. The snow was coming down hard, the kind of storm that made it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Emily was already halfway down the driveway, her boots sinking deep into the snow. Emily! I called after her. She didn't stop. I half ran, half stumbled to catch up, slipping on a patch of ice in the process. Emily, Jesus, will you just... She spun around so fast I almost ran into her. What? She snapped. I held up my hands. Maybe don't storm off into a literal blizzard while pregnant. She let out a short, humorless laugh. Oh, so now you're concerned about my well-being? Where was that energy when everyone was attacking me inside? I sighed. I was trying to keep things from exploding. Well, you failed, she muttered. Snowflakes stuck to her hair and eyelashes, but she didn't seem to care. She just stood there, arms crossed, shivering, but not backing down. I exhaled, my breath coming out in a cloud. Emily, what's the plan here? You're just gonna walk until you freeze. She glared at me. I'd rather freeze than go back in there. I took a deep breath. Okay, fine. Let's just take a second. She didn't move, but she also didn't tell me to leave. That was progress. For a moment, it was just the sound of the wind howling around us. Then Emily's shoulders slumped. I knew they'd be mad, she admitted. I just didn't think it would be this bad. I shook my head. Come on. It's our family. You really didn't see this coming. She huffed out a breath. I guess a part of me thought they'd get over it. That they'd care more about me being happy than about who I was marrying. I frowned. Are you happy? She looked away. Tyler loves me. He's nothing like his dad. That's not what I asked. Emily hesitated. And that's when I felt it. That tiny sliver of doubt. She was sure about Tyler. But was she sure about her future? Before I could press further, the front door slammed open behind us. Emily, get inside now. Uncle Mike. I turned, expecting to see a furious, red-faced Mike ready to drag Emily back inside. But instead, he looked terrified. My stomach dropped. What's wrong? I asked. Mike didn't answer me. He was staring at Emily. You need to come inside, he said, voice urgent. Emily frowned. Why? Mike hesitated, then dropped the bomb. It's Grandma. She collapsed. You have got to be kidding me. First, Emily's engagement. Then, the pregnancy. Now, Grandma's in trouble? How much worse can this holiday get? Emily and I froze. The wind howled around us, but everything else felt dead silent. What do you mean she collapsed? Emily's voice cracked. Mike didn't answer. He just turned and rushed inside. Emily and I followed, tripping over ourselves to get through the front door. Inside, the atmosphere had completely shifted. Aunt Brenda was on the phone, pacing. Yes, we need an ambulance. We're snowed in, no one can get through. Grandma was slumped in her recliner, eyes half open, breathing shallow. Her face looked pale, too pale. Aunt Linda hovered nearby, for once not talking. I had never seen my family so quiet. Emily dropped to her knees beside Grandma, grabbing her hand. Grandma? Can you hear me? Grandma's eyelids fluttered, but she didn't respond. Aunt Brenda whirled on us. I called 911. They said the roads are still blocked. No one can get here yet. I swallowed hard. So what do? We wait, Brenda muttered. We wait. That was the last thing any of us wanted to hear. We all sat around the living room, watching Grandma like she was a ticking time bomb. Emily wouldn't let go of her hand. Mike stood in the corner, looking helpless. Dad sat with his head in his hands. No one spoke. For the first time in days, the family wasn't fighting. We were just scared. Then, after what felt like forever, Grandma finally stirred. Oh, stop looking at me like I'm already in the ground. Aunt Brenda burst into tears. Emily squeezed Grandma's hand. You scared the hell out of us. Grandma sighed. Well, maybe if you all weren't screaming at each other all day, I wouldn't have to scare you into shutting up. I let out a breathy laugh. She was still Grandma, but then her face grew serious. I need to say something. Everyone went still. Grandma looked around the room, taking in the faces of her entire dysfunctional family. I have a secret, she said, and it's time you all knew the truth. Oh, for the love of God. What does Grandma know? I swear, this family cannot go 5 minutes without dropping another bombshell. Grandma took a slow breath, her fingers twitching slightly against the armrest of her recliner. Everyone was silent. Even Uncle Mike, who had spent the past 24 hours threatening to disown Emily, was watching her like his entire worldview depended on what she was about to say. I could feel my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Aunt Brenda wiped her face. Mom, what are you talking about? Grandma hesitated, like she was trying to find the right words. Then she sighed. I've been helping your brother. The room stayed quiet. I blinked. Wait. What brother? Grandma's eyes flicked to Uncle Mike. Mike stiffened. Oh, hell no, he muttered. Tell me you don't mean. Grandma nodded. Your father's son. From his first marriage. The air vanished from the room. Aunt Brenda gasped. Are you telling me you've been secretly giving money to Robert? Robert, the long-lost half-uncle no one talked about. I barely even remembered the guy. He had been estranged for years. All I knew was that my grandpa had been married before Grandma, had a kid, then left them both to start over with her. That kid had grown up into a man who, apparently, hated us. Mike's face turned red. Are you kidding me, Mom? You've been paying his bills. Grandma nodded. He needed help. Mike scoffed. He's a con artist. He's been needing help since 1995. Emily, still sitting beside Grandma, looked stunned. How long have you been doing this? Grandma's hands clenched together. Over 20 years. Aunt Linda actually gasped. 20? Mom, how much money are we talking about? Grandma hesitated. Then calmly. Enough. Oh, this was bad. Mike shot up from his chair. So let me get this straight. All this time, while I was working my ass off, while Brenda and I were helping pay for your house repairs, while we were covering extra expenses, you were sending money to him. Grandma met his gaze evenly. Yes. Mike looked ready to explode. That lying, thieving, manipulative bastard took my father from me, and now he's taking my mother's money? Grandma snapped. He didn't take your father. Your father left him. Left him. Michael. Just like you're trying to do to Emily now. That shut everyone up. Mike's face twisted with something unreadable. And for the first time in his life, he didn't have anything to say. Grandma just dragged him to hell and back. I cannot believe this. My grandma has been funding our mysterious estranged half-uncle for 2 decades, and now my family is imploding in real time. The silence that followed Grandma's words was heavy. Uncle Mike looked like he was having an out-of-body experience. Aunt Brenda was clutching the armrest of the couch like she needed something to physically hold her down. Even Aunt Linda, who usually thrived on family drama, wasn't smirking anymore. "You've been sending Robert money," Mike said slowly, like he was waiting for Grandma to take it back. She didn't. Instead, she lifted her chin and said, "Yes." I felt the tension in the room crackle. "For how long?" Brenda asked, voice tight. Grandma took a slow breath. "Since your father passed." Emily's head snapped up. "That was 24 years ago." Grandma nodded. "He was struggling. He had nothing." Mike laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Oh, he had nothing. He had nothing. You know who else had nothing? Us. We were scraping by, helping you with bills, fixing up this house, covering medical costs." "I never asked you to do that," Grandma interrupted. Mike's face reddened. "Because we thought you needed it." Aunt Linda leaned forward. "Sue, how much are we talking about here?" I swear, I actually felt the entire house hold its breath. Grandma hesitated. Then calmly, 50,000. Aunt Brenda's hand flew to her chest. Emily's mouth dropped open. I actually felt my soul leave my body. Uncle Mike lost it. You gave him $50,000? Grandma didn't flinch. Over the years, yes. Mike kicked the coffee table. "You're telling me that while I was busting my ass working overtime to help you pay for home repairs, you were just handing cash to some guy who hasn't spoken to us in 20 years? Grandma's face didn't change. "He's still family." "No, he's not," Mike shouted. Brenda jumped in. "Wait, Mom, do you even have money left?" Grandma didn't answer. The silence stretched way too long. Aunt Linda whistled. "Oh no." Brenda stiffened. "Mom." Grandma sighed. "I have enough." Mike slammed his hands on the table. "How much?" Another long pause. Then, "Not enough. She's broke." My grandma not only funneled 50 grand to my long-lost uncle, she spent almost everything she had. And now, she might lose the house. This just went from messy to catastrophic. Grandma's words hung in the air like a bomb that had just gone off in slow motion. Mike stared at her, jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might shatter. Aunt Brenda had gone completely rigid, her fingers digging into the couch. Emily looked like she might be sick. I broke the silence first. "What do you mean, not enough?" Grandma exhaled through her nose. "It means exactly what it sounds like." Mike's face twisted. "Mom, are you telling me you're broke?" She didn't answer right away, which meant yes. Aunt Brenda stood up. "Oh my God. Mom, do you even have enough to keep the house?" Grandma's mouth pressed into a thin line. Mike ran a hand down his face. "This is unbelievable. You're telling me that while we were helping you, fixing the roof, covering your medical bills, paying off your debts, you were just secretly handing money to Robert?" "Yes." Mike let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Do you even realize what you've done?" Grandma's eyes snapped to him. "I helped my son." Mike's hands curled into fists. "Your son? Are you kidding me?" "He's a grown-ass man who hasn't spoken to you in decades unless he needed something." Aunt Linda, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally chimed in. "So, what happens now?" Brenda snapped her head toward Grandma. "Yeah, that's a great question." "What now, Mom?" Grandma exhaled. "I don't know." Emily rubbed her temples. "Okay, let's not panic. Maybe we can figure something out." Mike cut her off. Nope, not this time." He turned back to Grandma, voice sharp. "I am not bailing you out of this." Grandma's expression didn't change. "I didn't ask you to." Mike laughed angrily. Oh, so what's the plan? Keep sending money to Robert and pray you don't end up on the street. Grandma sat up straighter. I'll figure something out. Mike lost it. No, you won't. That's the problem. Emily flinched. I'd never seen Uncle Mike look this furious before. His whole body was shaking, fists clenched, face red. I cannot believe this, he muttered. You let us believe you were struggling. You let us think you needed us. And the whole time, you were just throwing money at a man who does not give a single shit about you. Grandma's lips pressed together. He's my son. Mike's voice cracked. So am I. Aunt Brenda's face twisted in pain. No one spoke. Mike swallowed hard, his hands still shaking. Then, quietly, he said, I'm done. Brenda blinked. Mike. No, he cut her off. I'm done. Mom, you want to give your life savings to a guy who abandoned you? Fine. But don't come crawling to me when there's nothing left. He turned on his heel and stormed toward the front door. Mike laughed angrily. Oh, so what's the plan? Keep sending money to Robert and pray you don't end up on the street. Grandma sat up straighter. I'll figure something out. Mike lost it. No, you won't. That's the problem. Emily flinched. I'd never seen Uncle Mike look this furious before. His whole body was shaking, fists clenched, face red. I cannot believe this, he muttered. You let us believe you were struggling. You let us think you needed us. And the whole time, you were just throwing money at a man who does not give a single shit about you. Grandma's lips pressed together. He's my son. Mike's voice cracked. So am I. Aunt Brenda's face twisted in pain. No one spoke. Mike swallowed hard, his hands still shaking. Then, quietly, he said, I'm done. Brenda blinked. Mike. No, he cut her off. I'm done. Mom, you want to give your life savings to a guy who abandoned you? Fine. But don't come crawling to me when there's nothing left. He turned on his heel and stormed toward the front door. Emily's eyes went wide. Mike, wait. The door slammed. Mike was gone. What the hell just happened? My uncle just walked out on the family. Is he right? Did Grandma betray us? Or are we just being selfish? Because right now, I don't know what to think. No one moved. The sound of the front door slamming still rang in my ears. Uncle Mike, Mr. Family Loyalty himself, had just walked out. Aunt Brenda let out a shaky breath. He'll be back. No one looked convinced. Grandma, still sitting in her recliner, exhaled slowly. I didn't want this to happen. Emily ran a hand through her hair. Grandma, what did you think was gonna happen? Grandma sighed, rubbing her temples. I thought you'd understand. Aunt Linda laughed out loud. Understand? You mean, understand why you gave 50 grand to the one guy in this family who ghosted us for 20 years? Grandma's expression didn't change. You don't know the full story. Brenda threw up her hands. Then tell us. For the first time all night, Grandma looked uncertain. Then she said, Robert didn't leave. Your father pushed him out. I froze. Emily's head snapped up. What? Grandma nodded. He didn't abandon us. He was forced out. Brenda shook her head. That's not true. Dad told us. Grandma cut her off. Your father lied. Silence. You were kids, she continued. And your father. He didn't want you knowing the truth. But Robert never wanted to leave. Your father made him. Linda's jaw dropped. Wait, are you saying Dad kicked him out? Grandma swallowed. He told Robert that if he ever came around, he'd never see a dime of his inheritance. He had nothing. No support. No family. So he left. Brenda paled. That's not what Dad told us. Grandma's face was tight. I know. I looked at Emily, whose expression had shifted from shock to something like understanding. No wonder Grandma had spent 24 years trying to make it up to Robert. Emily spoke first. Does Mike know? Grandma shook her head. Your uncle has always seen things in black and white. He wouldn't have believed me. Linda scoffed. Yeah, well, He sure as hell won't believe it now. Brenda sat down, rubbing her face. Jesus Christ. What a mess. I sighed. So, what happens now? Grandma closed her eyes. Now, we wait. My grandfather was the villain this whole time. What the hell do we even do with this information? And more importantly, how do we tell Mike? The house felt emptier without Mike, even though there were still too many people in it. Aunt Brenda was still processing. Aunt Linda was on her phone, probably updating the family group chat with our latest crisis. Emily sat in the corner, staring at the floor like she was debating her entire life. And Grandma? She looked tired. So, Emily finally said, "Are we gonna tell Mike?" Brenda groaned. "Oh yeah, that'll go over great. Hey Mike, you know the guy you hate. Turns out he was the victim this whole time." Linda snorted. "Honestly, I wanna see it." I sighed. Like it or not, he deserves to know. Grandma rubbed her temples. "He won't listen." "He might," Emily argued. "If he hears it from you." Brenda shook her head. "Mike's stubborn as hell. If he's convinced something is true, you're not changing his mind." "Well, we have to try," I said. No one looked excited about that idea. Then the front door creaked open. We all snapped our heads toward it. Mike stood there, covered in snow, his expression unreadable. For a second, no one spoke. Then, "Did you cool off?" Brenda asked carefully. Mike didn't answer. He stepped inside, shut the door, and looked straight at Grandma. "Tell me the truth," he said. "All of it." Grandma exhaled. Then she told him everything. It took a while. Mike didn't interrupt. He didn't explode. He just listened. And when Grandma finished, he sat back, eyes unfocused. "So what?" he muttered. "Dad was the bad guy." "No," Grandma said softly. "But he made a bad choice." Mike let out a breath, rubbing his face. Finally, he looked at Brenda. "What do we do?" Brenda blinked. "Wait. Mike sighed. "Look, I still think Robert is a selfish asshole. But if Dad really did screw him over, maybe we owe him." Emily stared. "Did you just admit you might have been wrong about something?" Mike groaned. "Don't make a big thing out of it." Brenda shook her head. "Well, guess we're taking a family road trip." Linda grinned. "Oh, I am so recording this." And just like that, we're going to find Robert. I have no idea how this will end. Maybe he'll slam the door in our faces. Maybe he'll tell us to go to hell. But one thing's for sure, this family is never boring. Did we do the right thing? Would you have forgiven Robert? Because I'm still not sure we're ready for what happens next. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more wild Reddit stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep the stories coming.